Y'all loved part 1, but if you haven't seen part 1 yet, don't worry, you can check it out later. There's no particular watch order, so let's get on with 4 more car nerd arguments that I'm tired of hearing. This brand is better than the rest, or insert brand is better than your insert brand, aka overt brand loyalty. In the same way commie boos or tia-boos in the tank/military aircraft community are super obsessed over certain countries and makes and so on and so forth, people here in the car community are also way too loyal to certain brands of cars or certain makes from certain countries. However, let's immediately draw a distinct line between overt brand loyalty and just casual brand preference. It's okay to prefer a certain brand or even want certain cars from a certain country. My only problem is when people get way too obsessed or defensive over certain brands. Now, in my case, I prefer American cars and muscle culture about 10% more to the others. It doesn't mean I hate all other brands. Now, the issue with the internet is that if you don't immediately worship something as much as they do, they immediately do assume that you hate it. I have massive amounts of respect for Nissan GTRs, for NSXs, for Supras, and of course, the sexy ass 3K GT. I mean, it's very obvious. I think extremely highly of the car, still one of the best looking cars ever made, and I love the rotary Dorito Legend as well, with all the stupid braps that they do. Having said that, I have a friend locally who is a huge Mopar fanboy. He bought a Scat Pack. 6 months later, he got a Hellcat. Then 8 months later from that, he got a Hellcat Red Eye. Every time a new super high-end Mopar release, he just had to have it. He's like, I want that model now. That's now the better model. And here's the tragedy. 6 months after owning that Hellcat Red Eye, he had it repoed from him. He couldn't make the payments. So who won that interaction? The bank, the dealer, and the manufacturer. They don't care about you. The brands that you froth in the mouth so much for just see you as dollar signs, which is why if you get too brand loyal, some brands get lazy and don't innovate anymore since they know their fans will just buy the cars anyways, which is why I'm not even part of the Ford versus Chevy thing. I actually think both of them need to exist because both of them need to punch each other to keep the other one properly awake, because there have been times that Ford has fell asleep. There has been times where Chevy has fell asleep. That's why I own both a Ford and both a Chevy, because there have been times where, genuinely speaking, I think one has won over the other. And in the future, I hope that continues to happen, not just with them, but with every single brand. Now, the next thing that I really hate about spec sheet nerds is that they always say stupid crap like, well, this car is totally worth that price. You're just mad that you couldn't afford it, bro. You're just too poor. And they usually say this in regards to vehicles that have been completely ruined in the car market. What I'm talking about is, well, let's get back on the topic of Japanese cars. The other reason I haven't bought one is that it's no secret that spec sheet nerds have completely destroyed the car market. All of these sporty ones that I like from the 90s have inflated through the roof, where I would sooner build a 4090 spec computer, buy a Honda Fury, buy back my Porsche motorcycle. Again, it's not a matter of I don't have the money to buy 100 grand NSX, but rather I don't want to spend that money to buy 100 grand on an NSX because it's only gonna make me 10% happier, but I ended up spending 100% more. It defeats the point of tuner legends. When you think of why these tuner legends got so popular, it was because you could buy a Toyota Supra for 25 grand and tune it through the moon for another 10 grand, and it would destroy supercars, absolutely slay them, and that's what made it famous. But then once clout culture got to it, people got to the point where modded Mark IV Supras sell for 150 grand, and I'll be honest with you, once you cost as much as the supercar, are you really slaying the supercar? Like, is that really worth bragging about anymore? Bro, I just destroyed your 150 grand supercar with my 150 grand tuned to the moon super. Wait a second, hold on, I just spent the same amount of money you did. Exactly. It's no longer an underdog. Let me repeat, it is no longer an underdog. It is not underrated or quirky to like Skylines or Supras anymore. I'm going to say it again. I would rather spend my money on things that cost 10% my current car that make me 200% happier than to spend 200% of the price of my current car to only get 10% happier. That's another reason I'm struggling to replace my current cars with. The car market right now is extremely whack. And unfortunately, you have fanboys defending the collector prices because they go, actually, it is worth 150 grand still. You just want to understand the cultural significance of the Supra, and you're just poor that you can't afford it. You can't afford it either. Why would you support that it's expensive now? A lot of these people are loaning through the roof. And it is dawning on me a little bit more to respect modern Japanese cars because they are a lot cheaper than the older variants that they're based on. Now, of course, they're not perfectly JDM by Super JDM fanboy standards because yes, the Supra uses a BMW engine. I don't care. I'm at the point where I really respect the Mark V Supra now. Having said that though, unfortunately, some of these cars still have way too much dealer markup. In truth, the quirkiest, coolest, and the most likely to buy Japanese cars that I would want, that would offer a completely different experience in my life, that I absolutely adore, I can't even buy them. And it's not because I can't afford them, it's because they're not available. Which brings us to the next entry. The cheaper, punchier Japanese cars I want, I also can't buy. Now, unfortunately, those cars, along with many European small hatchback style vehicles, are not available in the US. I'm not wanting to buy another performance car, new or old. While I do respect Mark IV and Mark V Supras, Mark IVs are way too inflated through the roof, and Mark Vs are still way too marked up. And again, it offers too much the same driving experience of what I already have. Rear-wheel drive, front engine coupe. Yes, I know someone's gonna get technical and be like, but it's an inline 6 this time and it's a blah 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 blah. I'm looking for a commuter, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm looking for a punchy, cute little hatchback, or sedan even. And unfortunately, you can't really find many of those anymore. You're more likely to find them in the Acadia market these days, but let me just get to the actual point of this entry. But trunk space, bro. Trunk space, bro. Bro. SUVs, bro. All-wheel drive, bro. So it turns out the reason we don't have any of these cool hatchbacks and sedans available is because even non-car enthusiasts have become spec sheet nerds. You thought this video was only going to be making fun of car bros who love 0-60s and froth at the mouth about horsepower? Hell no. Turns out non-car people are also guilty of being spec sheet nerds. The difference is they look at entirely different specs than we do, but it still completely ends up massacring life for any normal person just trying to get a normal vehicle these days. 10 years ago, the market was still filled with sedans and hatchbacks and wagons. Nowadays, non-car people buy SUVs because they're upsold on the storage space specs, the all-wheel drive specs. They won't even use it off-road anyways, but it doesn't matter. They're still not going to put winter tires on their car, so it's still going to get stuck in snow, but it doesn't matter if you use the buzzword all-wheel drive. They'll buy it. Oh, and you want a ridiculously huge vehicle? You know you have to because of the arms race of the size increases each year. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. The obsession of numbers has ruined all aspects of car culture, not just for people who want speed, but for people who want anything in excess of things that they don't actually need. In Not Just Bikes video, using factually obtained data from Consumer Reports and from Edmunds, he mentions that SUV sales now accounts for 80 to 90% of car sales in the US. That's almost every car sold. I can't go into a dealership and buy a quirky little hatchback or sedan anymore because they literally aren't on dealership lots anymore. That they don't supply them anymore. They sell 90% of SUVs. And this is true when I drive by those dealerships. Yes, I know I could order one, but again, at that point, if it's gonna take up that much time, I'd rather just keep the current cars I already have. It is tragic, really tragic. Spec sheet nerds are an epidemic on both extremes of the spectrum, enthusiast or not. Do you know how many spec sheet nerd non-car SUV owners ask me stuff like, yo, how do you buy TVs, man? How do you get wood from Home Depot? How do you get appliances like washing machines? What do you do about furniture? Your Corvette can't carry any of that. You should get an SUV, man. And then I shoot back, how often do I buy those things? How often are you buying those things? And if they shoot back, well, the few times I do buy those things, I am glad I have my SUV for it. Too bad you don't. And then I pull the tried and true phrase that has really stumped every single one of my dumb coworkers and other stupid normie non-car friends who are obsessed with SUVs. When I say the phrase, free delivery. You know any places that sell TVs, furniture, and yes, even Home Depot or other appliance places, it doesn't matter. The point I'm making is they give free delivery these days for fridges, washing machines, televisions, etc. Yes, it takes a few days to arrive, but who cares? I'm not biting my nails out of excitement over a new refrigerator. It's a new refrigerator. It's not like a super enthusiastic thing that I care about. Do I really need instant gratification of getting it instantly? In fact, most SUV owners that I know don't even have the ability to carry their own furniture that they buy. The amount of them who use the excuse of I needed to buy furniture and then can't even fit the furniture they bought in their SUV anyways and get it delivered to them anyways, it is absolutely hilarious. Again, I mentioned it last video and I'm gonna mention it again. Why are young 20-somethings going into debt for freaking furniture and appliances? furniture. It is a growing debt epidemic amongst 20-somethings to spend money and take tons of loans on furniture. Just by saying that, I'm sure some 10 sofa enthusiasts have been super upset, like, well, actually, it's worth spending $4,000 on a sofa. I don't give a rat's ass about overspending on furniture. A sofa is a sofa for me. I'm also not terminally consumer brain to think I need to buy a TV every year, much less every 6 months. Let's just digest this entire spec sheet nerd consumer brain entry. People are telling you to take a loan on a $40,000 SUV, then tell you the reason you now have to buy that vehicle is because you also need to use that $40,000 vehicle to constantly take loans on furniture, appliances, and TVs, just in case you need to buy more of those things. Just in case you need to carry that TV, you gotta spend $40,000 on SUV to carry that $1,000 TV you bought. No wonder I'm an irrelevant YouTuber. I actually have a brain. Videos telling you to be smarter don't get views. Videos telling people to buy things, that's what gets views these days. But for the big brain, giga chat aspiring millionaires watching this video, I am so absolutely proud that you're here. And if you want, make sure to subscribe. I do make more automotive content. I also would appreciate it if you like this video. It helps out the channel a ton. Also because I believe that someday y'all will get the great success that you're working towards. And I want to offer the advice to get towards that, because one of the greatest pieces of advice that I can give to people my age, it's to not buy something that you don't actually need. It's even worse when you're buying the thing that you don't need to then buy other things that you don't need. We just can't buy smaller vehicles now. People now no longer want smaller vehicles because they are fooled so hard into thinking they need constant trunk space that no one wants to own a smaller vehicle. I've gotten by with Z06 for years now. I've never, ever came to a point where I needed an SUV. If people have been able to get their kids to school just fine in sedans and wagons and vans and hatchbacks, there's no reason that you need to convince yourself to buy a brand new shiny SUV to do the exact same thing. Especially since the wagon probably has more storage space anyways. Wagons are still superior. This post was made by Wagon Gang. The final entry of this video is 0 to 60 is everything. Non-car people these days also care about 0 to 60. It's actually tragic. It's gotten so bad to the point that manufacturers are specifically gearing cars just for the sake of getting a better 0 to 60 time whenever they make it into consumer magazines to try to impress customers. But this comes at the cost of those cars either getting awful fuel economy or just driving terribly in other speed ranges because of how weird their gearing is now. Like, let's talk about electric cars because this is where it's the most prominent. A lot of Tesla owners always talk about how great their 0 to 60s are, and in truth they are fast 0 to 60s. But here's the thing, if I had to buy an electric car, I would just go full environmentalist and buy a Nissan Leaf or Honda E instead. I'm not a tree hugger by any means, but I'm also so sick of one of the sole arguments for electric cars coming into the future is that they can get better 0 to 60. Because there are other appealing qualities to electric cars. Yeah, I bet you totally did not see that coming. I bet you thought I was going to be some jaded boomer who's going to say electric cars suck or something. No, I actually absolutely see a future for electric cars. Let's talk about how this spec sheet nerd warrior behavement has affected the modern automotive industry. The average car purchase now costs $47,000. And 1 in 6 buyers are taking car payments of $1,000 a month with interest rates of 11% or more. Why have we done this to ourselves? At what point do the cars we buy just become useless spec machines and appliances that have no soul but cost a fortune to maintain and purchase? That's why cars have been drastically inflating, because people care way too dang much about specs. Even non-car people care about how specced out a stupid commuter car is these days. Again, especially for electric cars, why are they expected to have fast 0 to 60s? I'm gonna say it for the 5 Nissan Leaf viewers who are watching this video because they need to hear it. You guys have awesome cars. Don't let any Tesla owner ever bully you or gatekeep you by saying that your electric car is not a real electric car, or that it's too slow and it's not truly living up to the vision of Elon Musk, because one man and one manufacturer does not have the right to determine the entire production ethos of the electric segment. This isn't me hating on Teslas, by the way, just the fans. I still love electric cars, and I praised the Porsche Taycan on stream a month ago, and I remember some Tesla fanboy was literally like, hey, you didn't mention Teslas. You hate electric cars. You're such a stupid, jaded Corvette owner. You're such a boomer, man. Dude, I literally praised the Porsche Taycan on that same stream, that they think only talking good about Teslas means you like electric cars, because I'll be honest with you, I don't hate Teslas, but there are other electric cars I would much rather pick over it. And I'm not saying fast electric cars shouldn't exist. In fact, I still respect the existence of fast cars in general. Fast vehicles push boundaries, they allow for innovation, and they allow engineers to test new limits. They stress test vehicles, and racetracks are battlefields for new competition and innovation. It's okay to innovate more. My problem isn't the want, it's the obsession. The average regular consumer should not be obsessed with 0 to 60 specs on electric cars. They think that any electric car that doesn't have a super fast 0 to 60 is invalid. It gets so bad to the point that people don't buy the other models, which makes it where the other models disappear from market. Meanwhile, the people who currently own the modest electric cars are gatekept by their fellow electric car owners who bully them, who say, wow, your Nissan Leaf, it's too slow. Honda E, too boring. So then those cars just don't exist in the United States, and it's ridiculous. Ridiculous how in a country that constantly talks about freedom of choice has just removed freedom of choice. I want people to understand that something other than a 0 to 60 spec machine can exist. I don't want this one-track mind, this terrifying authoritarianism, absolute dictatorship where consumers are so brainwashed by corporations to want one thing that those manufacturers now only make one thing. A stupid convergence where cars in the future are just soulless appliances that are just ego jerk-offs. What freedom is there in a future like that? Nothing! None at all! Anyways, thanks a ton for watching, and if you enjoy automotive content, then please subscribe and leave a like. I promise I'm not always this emotional in all my videos, but go check part 1 out if you haven't. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.